Hi, I'm Kat from AMA, and this is Chase, head brewer with Alley Cat Brewing Company. Beer and cheese complement each other perfectly. We're here at Alley Cat Brewing Company today to do a tasting. With help from our friends from Alberta Milk, we put together some Canadian cheeses to pair with Alley Cat beer today. You'll know it's Canadian cheese, but it's one of these symbols on it.
So you're going to want to taste milder beers with milder cheeses and strong beers with strong cheese so that the flavors, don't overpower each other.
You're going to want to leave the cheese out for 30 minutes prior to starting your tasting.
For the beer, you're going to want to have your light beers nice and cold right out of the fridge, but your darker beers you can take out right around the time you take out your cheese.
So to start, you want to take a sip of the beer and then a bite of the cheese and have another sip of the beer and watch the flavors change. Let's get tasting. Our first cheese is Comax brie from Natural Pastures in BC.
And the beer we've paired with is apricot. The cheese is fairly light, and we want a nice light beer to go with it. Apricot's light and a little bit fruity, which will be a nice complement to the light cheese.
So first we'll take a sip of our beer.
When you taste your beer, it's always nice to have a little sniff first. It'll help activate your palate.
Oh, that's yummy. The saltiness comes out in the brie with that.
And apricot works really well with bloomy rind cheeses.
That was a great pairing. The beer brought out the saltiness and the brie and a little bit with the brininess. It was a delicious, perfect pairing. So next up, we've got cheddar cheese curds from Crystal Springs Cheese in Lethbridge.
And the beer we've chosen to pair with it is Skåne Gold. It's a nice, light, dry, clean Kolsch, which is a German style of ale, which is similar to a lager. These two will go together well because they're both fairly light, and the salt and the cheese will really help bring out the maltiness of the Kolsch.
Oh, it tastes completely different after.
Yeah, the salt in the cheese helps really amp up the malt quality in the beer.
This is a good beer to pair with poutine. The cheese curds, the saltiness.
Yeah, definitely. The lightness would definitely go very well with poutine. Help cut through the fattiness of the gravy. My favorite thing about Skåne is it's very clean, dry, high carbonation, so it's very easy drinking on a hot day.
Very good. Now we've got the Klondike medium Swiss cheese from Sylvan Star in Red Deer.
And the beer we've chosen to pair with it today is Buena Vista Brown Ale. Buena Vista is a medium-bodied brown ale that has a little bit of chocolate, nutty quality, which should pair well against the Swiss, which has slightly higher acidity and a nice saltiness.
Oh, that's stronger. So the beer is really caramelly and dark, and it makes the cheese almost dark as well. Like it's got a smoky and it's nutty, but really creamy. So good.
I expected this pairing to work well because they're both a little bit bigger flavor, but not overpowering. The brown ale is still very drinkable beer. It's not aggressive, it's not overly bitter, but just enough to help balance the Swiss.
I almost get hints of coffee too.
Yep, very light coffee, kind of chocolate.
Yeah, it's so good. I typically don't go towards the darker beers, and Swiss cheese being my favorite, to find a complement between the two, I really enjoy the beer. I really love the Swiss cheese. This is delicious. So the two of them together is a really great match. So now we have Arla's Smoked Vivardi.
We're pairing the cheese with Full Moon Pale Ale. It's an American pale ale, which means it has a higher bitterness, but also medium body with lots of carameliness. The hops bring citrus qualities to the beer, and so that's why we think this will pair well with the cheese.
It relaxed the bitterness. Like I find the first sip it was bitter, not bad bitter, and then you bring in the soft, smoky, still creamy, salty.
Yeah, the salt in the cheese will help accentuate, again, the maltiness of the beer, which helps balance away from the bitterness, which is why it helps smooth it out.
I wouldn't typically take a dark beer as well as having citrus.
I think the citrus in this just helps bring another kind of dimension to the flavor of the pairing. And the smokiness and the citrus kind of complement, kind of like charred lemons. I don't know if that's true or not, but it made me think of barbecued lemons. Oh, it smells so good.
It smells so good.
So here we have a bigger flavor. We're gonna be doing our old Grizzly Gouda from Sylvan Star in Red Deer.
And the beer we've paired with it is our Old Deuteronomy barley wine from 2017. Barley wines are really big, boozy, alcoholic, lots of stone fruit and plum type flavors, which we think will pair really well with the cheese. Yeah, the big fruity flavors of the beer pair nice with the cheese. That like light sherry you get in the beer.
That's what it is, it's the sherry. There's still carbonation, there's still some caramelization, it's still a little bit strong, but the cheese, and you've got the break about the crystals and the saltiness of the cheese. This was not the pairing I was expecting, it's really good.
Yeah, and with the beer being 3 or 4 years old, it's mellowed out quite a bit and doesn't overpower the cheese.
It's extremely unexpected. It's very nice. It's not smooth, but it's easy.
Yeah, and the nuttiness and the cheese really helps play off the big flavors in the beer.
It was good. You didn't know what to expect at all. This was one that we're like, don't know what you're gonna get. Really glad we did this one. So this is a bold flavor. We're going with Castello's Gorgonzola.
And the beer we're pairing it is our Black is Beautiful Stout. It's one of my favorite beers we're making right now. It's a very light, dry stout, but still has big flavors of like nuts, roast, chocolate, espresso, which I think will pair really well with the strong flavors of the cheese. I love this beer. The saltiness really amps up and kind of smooths out the flavor of the stout a little bit.
I was just about to say smooth. I'm very surprised with this one. I really like this pairing.
Yeah, the flavors really meld and complement each other in this one.
This is the biggest transformation, for sure. It's different when you taste the beer, and then you have the cheese, and then you taste the beer again. Each one changed in a different way. So this kind of thing is always fun. So thank you guys so much for having us. This is a really great time. If you guys are interested in trying your own pairings, please get some Canadian cheese and some Alberta beer. Like the amazing roundup of Alley Cat beers we had today, you can come on down to the brewery here in Edmonton or pick them up at your local liquor store. And cheers. Cheers. Thank you.